Let's look at our very last lesson for vectors. Now, so far we have learned how to add and subtract vectors and multiply a vector by a scalar, by a single number. We need to talk about today how to multiply a vector by another vector. That is what we call the dot product. Dot product is when we multiply two vectors together, and here's what we do. We multiply the x components and add it to multiplying the y components. So just like this, I'm going to take my two x components and multiply them. Then I'm going to add and do the same thing with my two y components. That gives me 3 plus a -8. 3 minus 8 is -5. So -5 would be the dot product of these two vectors. That is how we multiply two vectors together. Now, just so you know, multiplying vectors is still commutative, meaning you can flip it back and forth and it's the same answer. Still distributive, you could distribute a vector into there. Still works with scalars. And this is the important one I want you to highlight. The dot product between two vectors itself is the same thing as the magnitude of that vector squared. That's a big one. That one's really important. That comes up a lot. So if you multiply a vector to itself, that is the same thing as the magnitude of that vector squared. So we're going to use that to prove this identity. So here's what we're going to do. We're proving, so I'm going to draw my line down here. And I'm going to start on the left-hand side. I'm going to square this. So what I'm going to do is start right here and use this definition, where if I have magnitude squared, that's the same thing as vector v minus vector w times itself. So I just take the inside, times it to itself, because I know that is the same thing as the magnitude squared. Next, we know that the distributive property works on vectors. So I can take each of these things and distribute them. See what I get. So the first one I get is v times v. And I get v times -w. And then I get -w times v. And then I get -w times -w, which would be positive w times w. Next, I can use this property again in reverse to say that if I'm timesing a vector by itself, it's going to be the magnitude of that vector squared. And these, I've got two of them, so -2v times w. And same thing, I've got a vector times itself, so that's going to become the magnitude of that vector squared. And that equals the right-hand side. So we're done. We proved it. Check. Now, this was just introducing what the dot product is and how to find it. The dot product is used to find a lot of different things in math. We're going to go over a couple of those today. So in the next video, we'll use this dot product in a new equation, and that's what we'll use to actually find the angle between two different vectors. I'll show you that in the next video.